goodness, as much goodness as we can. So welcome everybody to our Body Electric weekly webinar. We have an awesome special guest tonight. We have the creator of Shakeology himself, Darin Olien, known to many of you guys as the superfood hunter behind Shakeology. So we have a series of questions we're going to ask him today. Really, Darin, we're open to whatever it is you want to share. So don't feel like you have to stick on topic. Like whatever you want to share with us, we're grateful for you to share. So with that, I will basically kind of turn it over to you and let you kind of introduce the topic of, why Shakeology was created, maybe your perspective on the quality of it from your standpoint, since you are in fact the superfood hunter and creator. So
yeah, awesome. So thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk about some of the things I love. And it is important to understand the reason that this was created, and really the drive and the perspective that both Isabel and I took. And that was really starting from the question of, what do we require as humans in this day and age? And you have to look at, what are we not getting, and what are we getting too much of, right? So without getting too far into it, we're getting too much of stress, and that stress comes by way of toxins in our air, our food, our water, from electromagnetics, from cell phones, from appliances, all this stuff. That's all real. So it's not something, look it up and dig deeper in it, but it's definitely a real thing that our modern day world has caused our reptilian brain to constantly be in a 24/7 kind of a stressful situation at a low level, yes, but that adrenaline stays on. So we're dealing with a body that ultimately, when it's under that stress, if we're exposed to something in the air, if we're exposed to something in the food, if we're exposed to something in the water, we're constantly under kind of that duress. So when the body's under duress, it requires more nutrients, more micronutrients, and certainly with that macronutrients come. So here we are in this situation. So when I asked myself that question, what do we require? The first thing that obviously pops in my mind is, we need some of the greatest nutrient-dense food in the world that we can create a way and a vehicle that can get to millions of people. I mean, I think at the time we said hundreds of thousands, right? And now, certainly we've got that and more. So, and why are we in this situation? Yes, so I talked about the stress and all of that stuff, but also for the last century, this whole century plus, and even in the 1930s, the government knew that our food and our soils were depleted. And through our monocropping and all of this stuff, we're eating food that doesn't have the wild components and the strength of those qualities anymore. So they knew that. So here we are, trying to do our best, eating food that has less nutrients, and operating under a stressful, kind of long-term stressful situation where our body needs more nutrients. That essentially is the main reason why we created this, we didn't even have the name at the time, why we created this nutrient-dense botanical garden called Shakeology now, because okay, what are the plants? What are the botanicals? What are the herbs? What are the superfruits? What are the enzymes? What are the pre and probiotics? What are these categories? What are the very important adaptogens? What are these foods that we can use and find and preserve in the best way possible so that they deliver on this very kind of filling in the gap necessity? That is at its core, at the heart of me and at the heart of Isabel. Regardless of Beachbody, that is how it was created, right? And so, of course, Carl's on board with that, and he promised us in the beginning that he wouldn't compromise on that formula. We would always go up in quality. We would never go down. There's a zillion reasons why sometimes you have to take out an ingredient, and oftentimes we fail 90% of the in-country facilities that are trying to process our stuff, but they don't meet our standards. So we have to help these people get on board sometimes, and other times it doesn't, and it can't make sense. So that's the reason. And so kind of stepping into this first question as to my perspective on quality, my perspective on quality comes directly from physical knowledge and physically showing up around the world, seeing the really bad things that shouldn't be happening that are happening. And it's nothing that we want to pretend that every company, every food has a beautiful label and a great story, and we want to pretend that they all have our best interest and our children's best interest and all of this stuff. And unfortunately, it's just not the case. And the greed of the human takes over way too much. And oftentimes it's a lot of work to set foundations to be able to do this right. So for example, when you're dealing with indigenous people and sometimes wild and collected and sometimes consciously harvested and grown products from around the world, you have to deal with person to person. You have to deal with people. So that's why I started traveling around the world, because I wanted and needed to deal with people and actually see where these things are coming from so that I could fully understand what those are, because I was curious about them, but also stand behind it morally and ethically. So that's the impetus of how I even started doing what I was doing. And luckily, when I'm going back to my perspective on quality, is like when you have a company now that spends millions of dollars every year on the unsexy side of that Shakeology in that bag, of making sure that what's in that bag is tested, the quality and the potency is tested for each ingredient, that every place around the globe where they have to go through their careful drying process to preserve the active compounds and constituents, that we have looked at those processes, that we have shown up in those countries of origin, not just once, not just twice, but many, many, many times. And we have set the standards of production in place. That's a really, really big deal. But it's hard, other than me telling you, it's hard to market that, right? But I'm telling you, my perspective on quality is because you have a company that backs itself into spending the time and the resources and the money to make sure that what's in that bag is way beyond just what's on the label. Because you and I both know that there's people out there saying their shake is the best one and all of that stuff. And I guarantee you, so many of them, because I can't out the companies, but so many of them are not putting their money where their mouth is. And when it comes to understanding that, I could go right now and spend $20,000 and find a manufacturer that would go out and find these commodities now for me. Find Camu, find ashwagandha, find moringa, and guess what? They're just trading commodities. And I've seen, for example, investigating into moringa in over 7 countries. I have seen the worst quality brown, yellow junk when it should be green, vibrant, full of chlorophyll, full of antioxidants, 25 to 35 antioxidants. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with companies that are just grabbing this stuff without having someone like me, and without having, most importantly, having a company that's spending the time and the money and the resources. That is the story that you need to tell people. They can balk at it if they want, but that's the truth. That's the plain ass truth of why our shake is superior over when you compare ingredients and all of that stuff. Plus, we do a huge amount of work making sure the alchemy, the blending of the enzymes and the probiotics and the fruit blends and all of this stuff harmonize, and doing shelf stability tests and all of that stuff. Sometimes plants are interactive. These things are alive, even though they're suspended in a dried state. They still interact, right? It's still based from a food and a botanical. So that's why, again, when you add water to it, it's active. Leave it outside on a hot day and you're going to have a science experiment. So that's life in there. So again, we go over and above measures of quality assurance with an amazing quality assurance team, with an incredible research and development team. I mean, there's things I could tell you right now that are revolutionary that we're continuing to improve on Shakeology. Revolutionary, right? We spent millions of dollars proving a very complicated thing to isolate certain things and prove clinically our shake does this and satiety and all of that stuff. Millions of dollars doing those things. So anyway, that's some of the reasons that, from my perspective, the quality matches the sometimes people argue that it's expensive. Well, damn right, it's expensive to do this stuff. Do you know when I'm sitting literally on a mountaintop looking at a herb going, that's in Shakeology, and it's in the middle of nowhere, in the sovereign Tibetan mountains to the Amazon, it's a long journey, and so much can go wrong if you're not doing it right. And so many companies are doing it wrong. Some they're naive to it. Others, they don't give a shit. And the third, people like, we'll do it later when we make more money. So that's where you're at. That's the comparison of other products and the difference of what we're doing. Okay, so I'll move on to, so what is it like to be a superfood hunter? It's first off, I never gave myself that title. I think it was like a Business Week article or an Oprah magazine article back in 2011 or something, and then it just stuck. So it's like it's a great way for me to break the ice. People say, "What do you do?" I superfood hunt. And every person without fail goes, "What is that?" So what is it like to superfood hunt? It's a lot of, there's only that one slice where you're on a plane and you're out looking and you're out digging. Sometimes there's been a few times I've been in Brazil lately. We've had from PhDs to botanists to researchers having 9 meetings, and we haven't even left the hotel. Just trying to get a sense of the culture, trying to get a sense of the environment. And then once we start gathering the real story, then we go out. We go out in the fields. We go out, meet with the chiefs. We go out and sometimes organize communities. Like, it's then seeing like, oh, is this ingredient or this food or this thing, is it viable? Is there a supply? What will it need? What's wrong? There's always something wrong. Every ingredient in Shakeology has a story that we've had to improve upon in terms of its journey to make it safely in that bag. And some of which we've had to let go. We've had to let go of ingredients because they couldn't scale with us, or the supplier wouldn't adhere to safety standards that we definitely demanded. And even though there's some ingredients, and I'm not going to say which ones, that people are selling and you're very familiar, and no one's doing proper safety standards on them. So we decided to take out some incredible ingredients because we didn't want to play Russian roulette with the off chance that someone get hurt and get sick. So these are the things, and these are tough things to have sometimes. So superfood hunting is awesome and curious and difficult as hell. It's not convenient sometimes. It's 9 to 10 hours in a bumpy car ride to meet with one guy for half an hour and stay in a shitty hotel, and but I wouldn't trade it for a second. What do you wish coaches could know about your role in sourcing ingredients? Well, if it was up to me, which it isn't, meaning that because the products sell so much and we have so many ingredients, we can't make the quick decisions anymore. So we all have to weigh in. I'm always pushing for new and better and all of that stuff, but sometimes I have to be completely patient. I wanted Moringa to be in a year after I stopped formulating, and a year before Beachbody even set Shakeology out. But frankly, Moringa, the processing of it in all these countries, it wasn't ready. The process of it wasn't even close to being online. Chaga mushrooms was the same way. There was an unsustainable amount of chaga in the world, so therefore it wouldn't fit in our formula. It just wasn't gonna work. And then finally we years go by and we partner with the right people on the right science teams, and we got that in there. So I'm always wanting to put cafe latte. There was an ingredient that I had found, the Maya nut out of the Yucatan Peninsula, that I wanted to get an incredible natural coffee flavor, but it was unscalable. And that was an incredible Mayan Aztec nut that I knew people and cooperatives and all of that stuff. So the point is that if it was up to me, I would probably get Beachbody in a lot more trouble because I would be flinging things at the formula that would probably be too premature. So luckily I have people and smart people to keep me in check and to make sure it's safe. Okay, so then can you share a little bit about the decision to use cane sugar? This is a perfect segue of kind of the things I was talking about. Number one, there's hardly any overall. I mean, we got overall sugar. There's barely any. Like you can take a sip of Coke, not that you would, hopefully that you won't, literally touch it to your lips and then you got more sugar in your body than Shakeology. But cane sugar is an interesting thing. Years ago, we started with coconut flower nectar out of Bali. Friends of mine did it, but they were having quality assurance problems. They were having scalability problems. We had to yank it. So as we were climbing, they were waffling, so we had to take that out. Incredibly minerally rich sugar with a bunch of other properties. Turns out that organic cane sugar has a ton of incredible properties too, because it's all micronutrient rich, along with some sugars. I think that people are way too afraid of natural occurring sugars, right? So that being said, in order to formulate something like Shakeology, in order for you to want to actually drink it, you have to sweeten it. If it wasn't sweetened, you wouldn't drink it. And we're not exclusively using, like I said, we're using a little. I mean, really, when it comes to actually the cane sugar itself, we're using very little. The rest is coming from the accumulation of all the sugars and all of the things. And then, of course, we're using other sweeteners. Low-hangao, stevia. The reason we need to use it from different angles, each aspect of sweetening comes out in different ways. It's like a really good wine is produced by these grapes under these conditions and ferments for this long and rests for this long and is opened and breathes for this long. It's kind of like that in terms of trying to formulate something naturally and effectively over the incredibly strong tannins, polyphenols, bitters, pungents, sour kind of medicinal plants. You have to understand, if you start looking, go look, just as like a 5-minute homework. This would be good on many levels. Go look at Schizandra. Okay? There's literally five constitutions within the body that it helps, and 5 senses of flavor. That gives you and by the way, one of the greatest adaptogens on the planet, helping you deal with stress, which is why we put it in there, coming from this beautiful, wild, sovereign area of China. If you look at that, and you will see pungent, bitter, sour, sweet, all of these things exist in that one ingredient, and then you add in ashwagandha, that like it literally like you just licked a horse's tail. Like that's literally what it's gross. But so the point is that it's incredibly difficult. Let's just say formulating Shakeology a year, flavoring Shakeology another 1.5 years, because you have flavor systems that want to put junk in there and chemical flow agents and all of this other shit. So you're fighting with those people going, this is what we do not want in our formula. This is what we need. So you have flavor systems, then you have the sweetening system. And that bloody thing was almost the destruction of me trying to figure that whole thing out. Now, luckily, we have much better people who are able to deal with those nuances a lot better. So the point to all of that is, don't worry about a few little grams of sugar. And believe me, we are constantly looking at every single opportunity of alternatives to always optimize Shakeology. I promise you. Many can't scale to our effectiveness, but we're proud of that. I consume that thing. I mean, I'm as strict as Isabel and I. If you looked at what we ate, we don't think we're strict because that's just who we are and that's our lifestyle. But I drink Shakeology every bloody day. And I've probably drank Shakeology more than anyone because I was drinking it when I was formulating. So probably for the record, I've been drinking it since 2006. Just if that ever comes up on a quiz. So let me see. So talk about the boosts. I think they are an unsung, powerful group of formulas. I am a little bit sad that they're actually called a boost, and that we positioned it to add to Shakeology, which I think is a fantastic idea. And because I do that, I add it to Shakeology, and then I'll get into each one of them. I also think they're standalone, incredible formulas, right? I often have focused energy, the incredible adaptogenic blend in there, the couple of ginsengs in there, the cordyceps, the rhodiola, one of the great adaptogens from Southeast Asia, and then guarana, which is incredible, very interesting stimulant from Brazil. That formula, that thing goes with me everywhere because I do like a little boost, but oftentimes I will put that alone, and I will put some like on the road. I will take Focused Energy and add some coconut powder and make a little frothy, little incredible little anti-coffee drink. So anyway, the Focused Energy, incredible formula, certainly made to add to Shakeology. And also the digestive blend, man. That is a perfect balance of soluble and insoluble fiber, which is definitely proven to slow down sugar absorption and help mitigate cholesterol and things like that. And that is so easy to add. And actually, you gain a little kind of thickness. I don't know about you guys, but I like a little thickness to my smoothie. And it's also a little good thing. You want to kind of not swish necessarily, but when you drink it, don't just slam it. Like, let it hang out in your mouth a little bit. So I like it thick with digestive boost plus some ice. And we all need more fiber. If you want to spend another 5 minutes looking up the importance of fiber, especially in the microbiome, the healthy bacteria, which is directly related to our moods, our stability, our immune system, and the list goes on and on and on. So you're getting a great pre and probiotic in the shake, and then you're getting this really healthy soluble and insoluble fiber that the healthy probiotics love to utilize. So it's an incredible formula. Don't brush that off. And then, of course, the greens. Greens are necessary around every corner. When green started on the planet, that's when life happened. Phytoplankton was the first green to show up that we know of, and then it went from there. So consider, I'll just leave you with this in the sense that our whole body, every time we eat, all we're trying to do is convert the sun energy that was harnessed by the plants into usable energy for us. So ultimately, all roads lead to the sun. So when you have the oldest living plant by way of a green plant, it is the greatest photovoltaic harnesser of the sun with its green pigments. And our symbiosis, our relationship with those plants, and our ability to utilize that, and do another 5 minutes of work. Look at the importance of green and chlorophyll and chelation and detoxification and alkalinization and cleansing. Like, you know this, you've heard it, you know it. So we made a very convenient way to get more greens. And there is no argument, I think, not to get your greens in every freaking day. And in a variety of ways. I mean, my salad for lunch is like huge, and I also green boost my shake every bloody day. So that's me. So yeah, is that all?
Yeah, I remember when you were in Indianapolis and you spoke at a Super Saturday, we went to lunch afterward, and you ordered two of it was like a huge salad. You ordered two of them, and I remember just being like fascinated. I'm like, gosh, that makes so much sense, right? Like, it was awesome to just see what you were ordering to eat, and I'm fascinated by all this stuff. So I know that you obviously walk the talk that you're sharing. So this has been awesome, and I really don't think I feel like at the very end you should have just like dropped the imaginary mic, because I don't think there could possibly be any other questions. I feel like you guys that are tuning into this, you should have such a confidence level in this product, and I know that we talk about this all the time, but just having the opportunity to hear from you, Darin, and share your time and your knowledge with us, even just for 30 minutes, has been awesome, and will go a long way in building the confidence of our coaches. Like, like you were saying before, yeah, you better believe that Shakeology is expensive, and we should stand behind that fact because it is for a reason. So we are so grateful for everything that you do, not just for tonight's call, but all of your superfood hunting and everything. I did want to just bring up one quick thing I saw on social media where I think you just recently did a Rich Roll podcast. Did you do it? Yes. So if you guys, those of you guys who are into listening to podcasts on your commutes, he was just interviewed on the Rich Roll podcast recently in the last couple weeks. And also his Facebook page is Super Life, one word. If you don't own the book, you got to get it. You got to get a few copies, share it with your family, share it with your coaches. But again, Darin, thank you so much for everything tonight. And thanks to all of you guys for tuning in.
My pleasure.
We will see you soon. If not sooner, we'll see you hopefully in Indy for Summit next year because we're right here in Indy.
Good.
Awesome, you guys. Well, have a great night. I'll talk to you guys soon.